So we've got a list of some really A-list kind of speakers, but we're really excited to present our first keynote conversation featuring D Magazine's, and this is really impressive because I couldn't make this level of titles here, but D Magazine's 2021 CEO of the Year, co-founder and CEO of Vari, Mr. Jason McCann. We have some people on the payroll.
Brad Hunt, I see you back there.
Loud applause. Interviewing Jason is Mr. Vance McCollough, partner at Moss Adams, a global leader in accounting, tax, and consulting services. Vance has over 30 years of experience serving clients primarily in the technology sector. He provides accounting, consulting services from companies ranging from startups to large multinational organizations. In addition, he helps guide companies through initial public offerings, secondary offerings, and private equity transactions. Vance began his career with a Big Four company and has spent time in Southern California, Seattle, Austin, Texas. He's been in North Texas since 2002. Please welcome Jason and Vance.
All right, Jason. How are you?
Good. Let's crush this.
Well, I had in my notes that you have been an entrepreneur for 30 years. Raj mentioned that I've been doing this for 30 years. Why do we put that in there?
That's
I
right.
don't know. Should we say,
the gray hair should be enough.
we've been doing this a long time. So, and you are the newly minted CEO of the Year for 2021. So congratulations on that. It's a big accomplishment, and your company is an important part of Dallas-Fort Worth County.
Yeah, so it's fun to start something here and then really think about a business that can learn locally with so many great organizations, make all your mistakes with your friends, and then build really a global brand because we've got now product in 120 different countries. We've driven almost 2 billion plus in top line since we started this thing with over 4 million users of our product. So all because we were able to birth right here in the heart of DFW. So it's been awesome.
Well, we'll get to the story of Vari, but how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so it was fun for me to grow up in my mom's hair salon. So I was the first entrepreneur that I knew was my mom. And so to see a woman lead an organization, I just assumed that's how businesses were ran. So it was great. And she said, as kids, we all had to come and sweep the floors and work in mom's salon. So we did that for years. And at one point when we got a little bit older, at about the age of 14 or 15, she said, you got to go get a real job and get out of here. And so she drove me around town, and nobody would hire me because we were too young, but this guy was kind enough to put me on the beach, setting up chairs and umbrellas for 20 bucks a day. And it was awesome. So I'm out there, soaking up the sun, thinking I was, living high, creating an incredible business. But ultimately leased my own beach, got my own umbrellas and chairs, started again my entrepreneurial journey of starting out there and doing my own thing and thinking I wanted to be in the hospitality industry. So I was looking around for schools, and U of H Houston had a hotel and restaurant program, dropped into there and decided I wanted to go in the restaurant industry, and ended up in that for a little while in the restaurant and nightclub days, back when Akeem Olajuwon in Houston was, for those of you that are Rockets fans, that was a big time. So we did that for about 2.5 years, and that's one of those moments in life where you realize that's not your calling, which I'm sure a few of you have had on your journeys out there, and decided to go back and do some other things and work on my MBA and keep learning and keep trying.
That's great. So you started Varidesk. So what was the impetus to create a standing desk? And what was the reaction when you first created this and took it to the market?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough, Dan Flaherty and I had met back in 1999. He had recruited me out of a toy company. I'd done a crazy POG business and gone through the POG craze, and there's probably a few of you that we were joking earlier, had kids that played it. And Dan and I went bust in the .com business, and Dan had the year of Big Mouth Billy Bass fish, so for those of you that are fish fans out there. But Dan and I, when we lost a bunch of money in the .com business, you learn a lot about people, and you learn if you can really, how healthy is your relationship. And he had these crazy years of hot items that were fads, and Raj knows all about this. You get these hot items and you chase them and then they die, because the hotter things get, the faster they die. So Dan and I had an opportunity to work together. He had a few inflatables that you now see as a huge business. And I fell in love with Dan as a business partner, with the business that he built, and had a chance to become president of his company. He was literally standing there at a cardboard box in 2012 saying that he had back pain. And I'm his president, we're friends, and I'm razzing him about it. He's like, no shit, I'm like hurting. And so I asked my doctor, what do I do? And she said, well, just stand up more if you feel better. So that was the whole strategy. And so Rosemary at the time was our assistant, and she would go on Google and try to find Dan a standing desk, and these crazy contraptions would just show up. And it was a joke, 6 weeks later, this box shows up, and Dan, I can't figure out how to attach it to his desk. And Dan walks in one day and goes, I've got an idea for a product. And as we're sitting there, he starts describing, I'm like, hold on a minute. I grab our head of industrial design, David Patton, who was working on some cool product at Jimmy. And the three of us sat there, and Dan started to talk, and David started to draw. I got to be just like a conductor in an orchestra. And it created that very first product idea. And as Dan and I were flying over to Asia to work on our Christmas and Halloween business, we're literally passing this newspaper back and forth. And the Wall Street Journal, Dr. Levine had coined the term, sitting is the new smoking. And we're like, this is a sign from God. There is something about that. Because Dan and I never fly together. We never sit together. Not that we don't like each other, but it's just our thing. And we just happen to be stuck together, and that thing is happening. And so, divine intervention, we create a prototype, start showing it, our employees like it. We're like, we got to show it to some other people. When somebody knew somebody, we said, who's got a lot of employees around here? And they said, we know the president of Verizon. That was literally our first presentation. Pedro Carrera was kind enough to see us. We walk in, we pull this thing out, we stand it up, and he goes, what is this? Nobody needs this. I don't even know what you're talking about. I grabbed an ergonomist, and I didn't know what an ergonomist was back then, and David did, thank goodness, so I knew almost what I was talking about. And he grabbed his head of HR, and he said, this is a huge issue. Back pain is the number one reason people miss work. Mindset of growth, we're listening, taking notes. The ergonomist gave us feedback on the product. The president said, well, if they say it's a thing, how much are they? And of course, we didn't know, it's like software. Oh, how much would you pay for it? Invest in people. I know y'all know this game. So we did the same thing, we didn't know. And so they kind of threw out, so they wanted to buy some. And we showed it to the Container Store in Capel, and they wanted to buy some. And that started our journey right here in the heart of DFW.
That's great. And what you do when you start a business is you fill a need, you find the gap. But Veridesk is a product, so you have to build a company. So tell us about the evolution beyond just a Veridesk into where you are today.
Yeah, so you take those early learnings, and we were selling product, and we did the ad in Sky Mall magazine and became the #1 selling item in Sky Mall's history, because we've all been trapped on an airplane. But listening to the customers, we started getting calls and emails that, hey, do you have anti-fatigue mats? What's an anti-fatigue mat? Sure, we can figure that out. So we started doing research, and we started creating anti-fatigue mats. Do you make monitor arms that hold monitors? And they would jerry-rig them to our Veridesk. So we started making products and listening to the customer. And for us, what we realized is this industry for furniture is built like the automotive industry, multi-layers, dealers, very opaque. Everybody's got a list and discount, it's crazy. And we said, wow, we could actually do something like what Tesla's doing, sell direct. We could continue this journey, have an e-commerce business, and build a brand like Apple that sells both B2C and B2B. And just by listening to our customers, they said, do you make electric standing desks? No, we don't. But Steve Jobs didn't create the MP3 player, so we bought everybody else's electric desk. They took 20 minutes to 45 minutes, sometimes hours to assemble, and we redesigned the simplest electric standing desk you could assemble in less than 5 minutes. So we're like listening to the customers, taking ideas that are out there, having that direct relationship. We're touring Google's headquarters and Facebook because they're talking about could we do product together, and I'm walking around the space and I'm like, these are the products that we're making. Like, you talk to Rhonda out there, she goes, at our employees at Google, we have 65,000 lives I'm responsible for, 45,000 move to a different team, a different space all the time. We were literally living and breathing flexible workspaces. We said we don't want to take all this sheetrock and throw it into a landfill. Could we make walls that literally come into a space and create nooks and crannies and offices with walls that move? And as people walked into our headquarters in Capel, they said, I want this. And they would just point their fingers up, just like the energy when you walked in today. You don't realize all those are products that we make. But what they were describing is the culture, the energy, the feel of the space. We're talking about recruiting and retaining talent. We're talking about transformation of businesses as they ebb and flow. And I'm talking to these CEOs and they're like, I don't want to worry about furniture or workspace. I just want a space that works. I need team rooms. I need huddle rooms. We need agile workspaces. We're doing 2-week sprints. We need focus rooms. And literally we were transforming product. And I wasn't in the space planning, workplace strategy design. I didn't even know what the hell that was. They said, will you do the space planning for us? Sure. Again, listening to the customer. Would you come install it? In my mind, we made the product so easy that we thought you would install it in your office. That's just my ignorance. And they said, no, will you do it? So sure, let's do it. So we started transforming offices and coming in and talking about culture transformation. Could we create workspaces that elevate people? Could we help you recruit, retain talent? That's our journey. That's the mission we're on. And it started to allow us to accelerate, become the fastest growing company in Dallas, to go from, oh my God, we did $1,000 one day to we're doing $1 million a day in revenue. And it's going all over these places and companies I've never even heard of. So that's been our journey as we got into all these spaces. And that's literally what you're seeing here today from a product offering.
And that's a great evolution. And as Raj mentioned, we are here today together for the first time in a while. Many of you probably haven't seen each other physically. Almost 2 years ago, the pandemic hit us. Tell us how that impacted Vari and how you reacted to that.
Yeah, so we had gone through this journey and everybody's walking in our office and they're like, you're so much more than a desk. We have over 300 products, and we had worked with building owners and we had staged furniture in their spaces, and the spaces were leasing faster because CEOs walk in, they're like, oh, the space feels great. Can I take it as is? I need to add some offices, and we would literally change the spaces. So we bought this building and we said, okay, we're gonna prove out our model that space as a service works. We're gonna work with other building owners, and we're gonna take our name. I had spent about $68,000 to buy Vari.com. I worked for years to find this person that held the website, right, on and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna eventually have to do something. We went through this whole strategy and study of what are we gonna call ourselves, and we worked with the same company, Landor, that took Federal Express to FedEx, and they took us through almost a year process. We spent millions of dollars, and we redeployed our marketing campaign and said, we are now Vari. We're gonna deliver an office to you in less than a month. All of our products are in stock. We'll do the space planning. We'll do the installation. When you want your space changed, we'll come in and do it. We're spending millions of dollars. We're now Vari. You knew us as Varidesk, and bam, COVID hits. And I'm like, oh my God, I've lost my mind. I'm gonna go bust again. I've been bust a few times, and I had some moments there at 2 a.m. and I'm like, holy shit. Like y'all, I was like, I'll be open in a couple weeks, I'll be open a month, and the ads are running and the meter's running. And I hired 50 salespeople in 12 different cities, because the joke was we had our headquarters in Capel, and I couldn't get people from Plano or Fort Worth to drive to Capel to look at office furniture. So I was like, okay, I gotta still work through this model. So I just hired all these salespeople. And I said, what are we gonna do? And so I'm laying there at 2 in the morning, and I realized a couple of things. One, crisis creates clarity. So at that moment, it came to me, one, I've got to over-communicate with my team. If I'm struggling at 2 a.m., I can only imagine what my real people, my employees, and our customers are thinking. Like, what are they worried about? So I started daily emails, weekly Zoom calls, leaning into it. We did our first discount on the website, 10% off, work from home 2020. And I pivoted in a 48-hour period all of our advertising campaign, and everybody's focus said, work from home. And instantly, our Varidesk that everybody knew us for, now our electric standing desks were the #1 selling item for us. Everybody's at home going, oh my God, I've got Technic. Oh my God, I'm on this cheap-ass IKEA furniture. Oh my God, I'm on the kitchen table. I gotta do something. Dual monitor arms selling out. Like, we are just like leaning into the pain, and we're gonna power through this storm. And what we did was, as a team, we became a rallying cry. And a dear friend of mine, they had been through H1N1, SARS, and all that in Asia. We reached out to our teams in Asia and said, y'all are about 12 weeks ahead of us. What's going on? And they said, oh, plexiglass shields, stickers on the floor, thermal scans. I went to the Taipei 101. I bought the exact same thermal scan. I started redesigning the headquarters. I'm going to do distance-based design, all before the CDC, all by leaning on our partners in Asia, going, what the hell are y'all doing? And let's try it here, literally while I figure this out. My teams just leaned into it and really thought about workspaces, what could we do? So we monetized work from home, pivoted our corporate offices, and transformed over 1,000 offices during COVID for clients just like y'all that said, we got to figure out something. So that became that, and our rallying cry became, we're going to keep rowing until the wind catches our sails. And you saw the oars go up from my team and the hashtag keep rowing. We're going to smile with our eyes, and we're going to power through this and not only survive COVID, but ultimately thrive and emerge as one of the great brands.
Well, that's a great story. It's excellent. We're now hopefully on the other side of that. So what can we look for from Vari in the future?
Yeah, so we've launched about 300 products. We've got another 200 in the pipeline. We think the world is going to continue. All of y'all are thinking about flexibility. Like this on Zoom doesn't happen. That moment out there for the ones I got to interact with out there, that doesn't quite happen on Zoom. So the idea that we as human beings are going to sit alone in our home and never interact with another human being, I don't think it's going to be forever. But I do think that we learned a lot during it. So work from anywhere is going to continue to happen. The idea that teams can somehow safely get back together, the idea that workspaces and flexibility and change is going to continue to happen, all those things are happening right now. It's like, but how do we cost effectively do it? So for us, we're trying to crack that code. So like here at Verispace, these 3 buildings that will own about 1 million square feet here in DFW are really an ideation lab for us. We have clients fly in from all over the country. They tour Verispace. They see our walls move. They see the spaces move. We lease these buildings out fully furnished to people, and then we change them. So after 6 months, you need to change them. We come in and change a space. We think that's going to be part of the future. We did over 150 different offices in the month of June, which was like a record number of building and office transformations, and then we got the Delta curve. But we recognize that's the reality that we live in. But I talked to my teams early on. Masks are going to be here forever. They've been in Asia forever. And for those of you that know the world, we're going to heal. We're going to continue to find ways to power through this, and flexibility and change is going to be a part of that. So the organizations, the technology, the seamless tools that you have wherever you're at are going to continue to be a part of our lives as we think about the future.
That's great, and we'll look for a lot in the future. So any last words, any words of advice for budding entrepreneurs who are looking to build great companies like Vari?
Yeah, I think as you think about it, we believe that entrepreneurship is the lifeblood of our economy. So we need great entrepreneurs like y'all, great leaders that are servant leaders that really take these opportunities to show by example of how it could be. How do we be the beacon of hope? How do we build human relationships one at a time? How do we realize that we're much more common, and we have much more in common than we think with each other? And how do we continue to be that beacon of hope and bridge? Because there's enough negativity out there, but I believe entrepreneurship embodies hope. And so for each of us here tonight, for all the entrepreneurs that you're working, for the kids at your kitchen table that are watching mom and dad be an entrepreneur and do those things, I think that's so important that we live and lead by those examples, because that will ultimately be the positive ripple effect that can impact our entire world, not just our nations, but our entire world as we think about what the future is going to be.
Great. Jason, thank you for hosting this group tonight, and congratulations again on your honor as CEO of the Year.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.